Okay, what are the key points I want you to take away from this whirlwind tour of supply chain management modules? Well, the big takeaway is to see how they fit in. And so what supply chain management modules actually help you do is extend the enterprise. And just as an ERP helped you bridge the gap between manufacturing and finance and marketing, now these supply chain tools are enabling you to extend the enterprise upstream and downstream to your trading partners. Now we broke up the systems into two, planning and execution. In planning, I didn't spend too much time, even though there's a lot of these modules out there, because you've already seen what they do. These advanced planning systems usually are systems that use mixed integer linear programming, optimization, to make long-range decisions. So you'll see this in network design, production planning, production scheduling, and all those longer range decisions. They're using the same underlying methodology that we taught you in SC0X, 1X, and 2X. The only difference is they handle bigger problems, a little more complexity, a little larger and a little faster solution time. Now, so that's the planning. We spent more time on the execution systems because these are things we haven't talked as much. We've talked about the decisions being made, but we really haven't talked about how they're executed. So we focused on 3 execution systems. We spent a lot of time on TMSs, transportation management systems, a fair amount of time on warehouse management systems, and then just a little bit of time on manufacturing execution systems. Now the TMS and the WMS are what's known as external facing execution systems. They interact with entities that are not part of the firm. So TMSs will work with transportation providers, and they also have to coordinate with suppliers for receiving product and with customers for delivering product. You can think of transportation as that bridging function for a company. It handles the inbound and the outbound. So the TMS has to really juggle all these external players. WMS, same thing. It's receiving product from one entity and shipping it out to another. So it tends to be external facing. Now the WMS itself is all about operations within the 4 walls of the warehouse. And as I mentioned, it's very different and not the same thing as an inventory management system that is establishing the replenishment policies, the safety stock, and the trigger stock policies. Okay, then we go into manufacturing execution systems, and these are less common, but it's really kind of like the real-time execution side of an MRP or a production planning, and it helps manage that WIP within the facility. It's more of an internal facing system in that it really helps the company run its operations better. It doesn't have too much external facing capability. We also talked about the distinction between planning and execution. It's worth reiterating because a lot of times people want to use the same piece of software to do planning and to use execution, and it really doesn't make sense because your strategic planning decisions are very different from your operational execution tasks. Strategic planning is all about finding a value focus. It's event-based. You're willing to spend a lot of time because the risk is great. You don't want to make a bad decision. On the operational execution side, it's just the opposite. It's all about process. You want to automate actions and go faster, so you make it rules-based. You're executing the plan. You're not establishing the plan. So strategic planning and operational execution, 2 very different approaches are used, and they use different technologies. You'll see more analysis engines, whether it's optimization, simulation, or data analysis on the strategic side, and on the operational side, it's all about workflow. Can I make things faster? Transaction processing, rules engines, compliance tracking. We saw that in the TMS with different processes that are used. You see that in the WMS in trying to streamline the process and make it more paperless. So very different between planning and execution systems. So let me finish off with just a quick snapshot of, as of 2015, 2016, the top 20 supply chain management software suppliers. And this comes from Logistics Management, which is a great journal. I encourage you guys to look it up. And so what we have here is the top 20 by revenue of the supply chain planning vendors. Now what they did is they listed them as being whether they provide supply chain planning, SCP, WMSs, then they have the MES/MRP, they're kind of tied together, then the transportation management system, or TMS, And they also included procurement. Procurement is becoming more and more part of a supply chain module. I didn't talk about it too much because we've talked about it in a previous class, but you're seeing this come in even more. So those are the columns. On the rows, notice that the top two suppliers are ERP providers, SAP and Oracle. So those are the two biggest ones, and you notice that they are the few companies that have all the functionality. This is what I was saying earlier. ERPs are just absorbing all this functionality, and they've both gone on acquisition binges to get this to move out of being a pure transactional system to provide some of that longer range planning. The next ones I want you to notice are JDA, Manhattan, and Infor, because those ones are actually growing a little more and they're becoming platforms. And so these are those supply chain ecosystems. And so you're seeing more and more of this as well, where they have multiple offerings. And then what a company will do will go into that ecosystem, and if they buy the TMS, they will also buy the WMS and so forth. So you're seeing 2 or 3 different categories here: the ERPs, the supply chain management platforms, and then a lot of individual suppliers, companies that only focus on one certain aspect. Okay, so this is what I wanted to cover in supply chain management software systems. You could spend a lot of time here. There's a lot of vendors. I encourage you to go out and look at different vendors. They all call things a little bit differently, but hopefully you understand the core functionality. So hopefully you enjoy the videos, work the quick questions, practice problems, and please use the discussion forum.